Hello, good evening from wherever you might be watching us from, and welcome to another edition of One to One here on QTV. And I am your host for today, Ansmana Isonyase. Now, one of his main campaign promises in 2016 was to embark on institutional reform and to strengthen government agencies. 3 years on after he assumed office, President Barrow's government created what is the country's first Ministry of Women, Gender, Children and Social Welfare. And the person who was appointed to spearhead government's programs as far as women, children, gender and social welfare is concerned is our guest on the program tonight, Honorable Minister Fatou Kinte. Honorable, it's a pleasure having you on the program. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. The pleasure is very much mine.
Your ministry was created in 2019. Take us through the process and how challenging it was for you. I assume it must have been.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank very much President Adama Barrow for appointing me as Minister of Gender, Children and Social Welfare. I know there are a lot of Gambians, but the mere fact that he singled me out is a privilege, and I want to thank him very much for the appointment. Yes, we were established in January of 2019, and I was appointed in March of 2019. Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Welfare is an amalgamation of the then Women's Bureau, which used to be under the Office of the Vice President, the Department of Social Welfare, which used to be under the Ministry of Health. So when I took over, the first thing I did was to develop a strategy plan, because it's a new ministry, which gives a sense of focus and a sense of direction. And quickly, we had consultants with the support of UNDP, UNFPA, and UNICEF. And then we had local and international consultants to start the process. And we started with an institutional assessment from the grassroots coming up. And me and my team work very closely with them. And we have a strategy plan, 2020-2025. And we also develop an organogram for the ministry, because, you know, it's a new ministry. Because we were trying to lay a foundation, a strong foundation for the ministry. We developed some directorates within the ministry. So as we are speaking, we have 4 directorates within the ministry. Directorate of Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment, which has replaced Women's Bureau. Directorate of Children's Affairs, Directorate of Social Welfare, and a 4th directorate, Directorate of Policy, Strategic Planning, M&E, and Research. This is very important. For the Directorate of Gender, we changed the nomenclature from Women's Bureau, because we have gone past the era of women in development. We are now into the era of gender equality and women's empowerment. So we want to be in line with international best practice. Now it is called Directorate of Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment. Social welfare was very big, so we divided it into 2. Directorate of Children's Affairs is very important, because the main focus of the directorate is on children's issues. Social welfare also is on issues of the vulnerable, the elderly, people with disability, and that's also timely. And the 4th one also, as I mentioned, is also key to have a directorate responsible for policy, strategic planning, M&E, and research. And for the organogram is also equally important, because in the organogram, we have all the positions required in the ministry. And each position has its terms of reference. And we have some staff in place. As we are now progressing, we are gradually recruiting to fill the gap. Yes, so this is the Ministry of Gender. We changed the nomenclature from Ministry of Women to Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Welfare, so that we take into consideration everybody else. as it is required. Now that we have finished with the laying of the foundation, we also did a staff training need assessment because it's a new industry. The requirements are different from what it was before. And we have developed a staff training need plan for the staff. And we are gradually training the staff as we progress. And now that we have set the strong foundation, now we are very busy with resource mobilization to implement our strategy plan. Yes.
We'll come to that later. But you were appointed in March.
Yes.
And in December, COVID hit. How did your ministry deal with COVID? What have you done to support? This is actually your area, women and children, who are mostly considered the most vulnerable in society.
It was not easy. You will all remember President Barrow gave support to all the Gambians in the form of rice, sugar, and oil. And because we are also in charge of children and women, of course, we saw the need to support vulnerable children within families. So we did an assessment in some of the areas like North Bank, Sierra, and West Coast region. And based on the findings, we were able to identify 1,000 families with vulnerable children. And we gave support in the form of rice, sugar, and oil, and also a monthly cash transfer of $1,000 for 3 months. We didn't stop at that. We quickly came into form a committee with Ministry of Trade and Ministry of Agriculture, because at the time also women had harvested their onions and they were about to perish because we had closed the lumos because of COVID. So agriculture did a survey of how much onions was available at the time. And then we quickly got in touch with a buyer who bought all the onions. And then the good thing was that it was bought on the spot, and women received their cash on the spot. And we also arranged transported the onions from the regions to the markets here in the urban area. In addition, we also work closely with WFP, World Food Program, to support women at the fish landing sites. Here, I'm talking about women in Gunjur, Tanje, and Burfoot. We quickly did an assessment to see what their needs and their concerns are. And based on the challenges that they have identified, we quickly came to their aid. And then they had no water. They were buying water from elsewhere. So quickly, we drilled boreholes, Gunjur, Burfoot, Tanje, at the fish landing sites. And when you go there now, you see the standpans everywhere. Even Tanje, you see standpans by the market. That wasn't there before. And then we started the building of smoke houses for them, for those who smoke fish. Because when we went there initially, they had smoke houses, of course. But then all the smoke was coming inside the smoke house, which is not healthy for the women. So we are now building for them smoke houses with chimneys. So all the smoke goes out. So within the smoke house, it's very clean and free. And we also built for them toilets, bathrooms, meeting places, where they can also sit down to clean fish. And for those who are in fish drying, we started building the solar dryers. And we have also built for them stores where they can keep the fish that they have dried. Before, they were keeping them under some places which were not hygienic. And for those who are in fish smoking, we started building for them the cool containers. Because they have told us that when fish boats land around 3, 4 in the morning and they get fish, at that time they cannot start smoking. They keep the fish, and because they don't have enough ice or they don't have ice at all, some of the fish get spoiled. So we've made arrangements to get them cool containers. These are containers refrigerated, and then where they keep the fish that they are about to smoke. So in the morning they can smoke, and even before selling at the market, they can still keep them there. They'll be fresh. Yeah. So we've installed one cool container in Burfoot, and we are about to install more for the women. So these are some of the things that we have done for women in the onion production as well as those in fish processing. But we didn't stop at that. We did a project proposal quickly and submitted to UNDP, and we've got funding from the UN Secretary Peace Building Fund. And so we started vegetable gardening projects in the Dari Fodeba Jokado in North Bank, Jamekunda also in North Bank, Buraya in North Bank, Dumbuto in LRR, and Boraba in Central River region. Here, we are supporting the women by fencing the gardens. We've already started that. Build toilets and bathrooms, meeting places, drill boreholes. And we've already trained the women on food processing and bed preparation, and also how to make local compost. The rest of the work is at an advanced stage. And for these gardens, we want to pilot work with women cooperatives. Yes, we want to form women cooperatives because we've realized that sometimes, especially in the urban, in the rainy season, women go out of Gambia to buy vegetables. And as a result, vegetables are very expensive during the rainy season. And in the dry season, there's a lot in the market. There's a lot of vegetables in the market. The prices aren't good, and some get spoiled. So we are going to use these vegetable gardens to pilot women cooperatives, where the cooperative we are going to support from our Women Enterprise Fund to give them a loan, first train them, so that when the women harvest their produce, these 5 gardens, the cooperative they'll be in touch with the cooperative. Cooperative will go to the garden and buy everything on the spot. So there's nothing like a post-harvest loss, or you go to Alumo, your things are not bought. So they'll buy everything on the spot and come and store in a cold storage facility, which we are going to establish for them here in the urban area. And then the cooperative will be selling out to the market vendors, the hotels and the restaurants. This is going to be a pilot, and based on lessons learned, we'll scale up. We've already been to Senegal with the women vegetable gardeners from these 5 locations that I mentioned to see how work is done in Senegal. And then so we are going to replicate that and then on a pilot and scale up. So as part of COVID, and these are some of the things that we are doing, we have done, and we are still continue to do. And again, for the onion producers, the last onion season, we gave them a loan for the Women Enterprise Fund, so they increased their productivity. And I want to say that because of work that we have done during COVID, now we are continuing to work with Ministry of Trade and Agriculture. Before every onion season, we'll come together and strategize and make sure that as soon as women harvest their onions, everything is bought at once and there's nothing like a post-harvest loss. And that's going to continue. And we've learned something from Senegal, that is, we have seen that there's an onion variety which does well in the rainy season. And we are going to introduce that this year with our onion producers and see how it goes. It's going to be on a pilot. If it does well, we scale up.
So that is basically support you've given women in the agriculture and fisheries sector. COVID, of course, came with other challenges as well. Talk about the issue of abuse. We've seen reports from several international organizations, even here in Gambia as well, that showed that there was a rise in abuse against women, especially during the COVID as well. You've been very much into advocacy, women empowerment, children empowerment, even before you became minister. What are some of the things that your ministry did during the COVID as well to address some of these challenges that came along with COVID regarding abuse against women?
Yes, actually we work with UNFPA to conduct a study on gender abuse violence during COVID, and you are right. The numbers are going up as we speak. And we have established a shelter, a home at our shelter in Bakote, home for victims of gender abuse violence. And we have established a toll-free line, 199. And as you call, there is quick response. We support for UNICEF. We're able to procure 2 vehicles for emergency response. It's not only for women, but also for children. and they are placed at Bakote. And as soon as you call the number 199 and you tell the location, quickly we rush to evacuate the victim for placement at the temporary shelter in Bakote, where the individual is giving support, medical support, counseling services, psychosocial counseling, and also legal services if necessary.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned, it's not only for women, also for children. And even before COVID, we have done a lot of work in the area of sexual and gender-based violence.
Yeah.
You may recall there was a time in the Gambia when you report such a case to the police, they will dismiss it as a personal family matter, not warranting police intervention. So what we did was we worked very closely with the police. This was with support from UNFPA. Then I was there. And we integrated gender and gender-based violence into the curriculum of the police training school. And developed a police training manual for the police, trained 35 police officers on the use of the manual, and established a gender unit at the police training school. So as you are speaking, we train the police on gender and gender-based violence and the role of the police. And we didn't only stop at that. We trained police who are already in the field. Over 3,000 of them have been trained on gender and gender-based violence and the role of the police. And the police do organize panel discussions live on radio on gender and gender-based violence and the role of the police. As a result of which, people have now built confidence in the police and they are reporting.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask about the
because
sensitization aspect.
Before reporting was not happening, but now people are reporting the cases. And we used to have child welfare officers in the police stations. So now we have now transformed that to be called gender and child welfare officers in the police stations. So when a case is reported, they take it up and do the investigations. But interestingly, people will come and withdraw the cases. But then the good thing is that they will pursue the cases and then go to the community level and meet the family and do a lot of sensitization, so that they are aware that it's a case of gender-based violence. And also, we have laws in place. We have the Domestic Violence Act and the Sexual Offences Act. These are laws protecting women and children. So if you are found wanting, the law will take the right course. So there's a lot of sensitization going on. And I think this is also the reason why people are now reporting, and we are getting more and more cases. And we are not stopping at that. As we are speaking, we are also coming to establish special courts for sexual and gender-based violence. Work has gone far in that, so that there's no to prevent delay
in cases.
In cases, yeah, exactly. Because what's happening is that because there are so many cases now, when there's a delay, victims withdraw their cases, and we don't want that to happen. We want to prosecute. We want to show an example to Gambians. If you prosecute one or two people, I'm sure we'll see a difference.
That is quite promising and very commendable indeed. But away from COVID now, let's talk about the issue of equality. You've been in advocacy almost all your life, advocating for women.
35 years.
Exactly. Over 3 decades. What would you say are some of the issues affecting gender equality in Gambia?
It's not only Gambia. I think it cuts across the globe.
Yeah. But this is in Gambia. We're talking about now in your ministry.
Patriarchy is one. Our traditional norms and values. Education is another. And the list goes on and on. Patriarchy, I think there's a whole misconception about patriarchy. Some people feel that the place of the woman is in the home and nowhere else. But I think gradually we are seeing a change in that. People have seen women excel in all areas, even at the level of the household. And women are giving some respect now. And if you come to education, the rates are still very low, at about 46.3%, which is still very, very low. And if you want women to occupy certain positions in decision making, they have to be educated to the highest level. Education there is very important. It is key. It's very important. And work is on between us and other ministries, Ministry of Education, and other ministries as well, for more education. We are aware that now we have achieved parity in basic and secondary level. We are seeing more girls register and undertake the grade 12 exams. But most girls stop at that. We're not seeing them move up the ladder to university. We are talking to the Ministry of Basic High Education, besides Science and Technology. And we were doing a study to find out why they're not progressing to university level. That's what we want to see. And as we retain the percentages and the numbers at basic level, we want to see a progress to university level. In fact, this is the reason why we are supporting those who offer science and technology at tertiary level, at university level. We, at the level of the Ministry of Gender, we have a small scholarship from ECOWAS. And we are giving scholarships to girls who offer science at university level. We also give scholarships to girls who offer the STEM courses at the institutions like GTTI and others. And until we are able to bridge the gender gap in education, it will be difficult to attain gender equality. Yeah, because when we talk about gender equality, we are looking at all levels in decision-making positions, for example. We still have few women in decision-making positions. And until we address the issue of education, it will be a little bit difficult to get that. And the issue of patriarchy, which I mentioned earlier, a lot of sensitization is going on. Now, parents are sending their girls to school. But we are saying, don't only send them to school. Allow them to complete. Don't withdraw them for early marriage. Allow them to complete.
It's still a challenge.
Yeah, it's still a challenge. Allow them to complete. Not only grade 12, but to go to university. Yes. So the sensitization, the awareness creation is going to continue with communities, with parents, with religious leaders, with mothers, and with the girls themselves and the women themselves. So that girls continue and complete grade 12 and university level so that we can bridge the gender gap. And again, it's also important because when you educate the woman, even at the level of the household, you see a lot of changes. There's improvement in the nutritional level of the family. There's improvement in the health status of the family. There's improvement in the education, more especially the education of the girl child. So we look at all the challenges surrounding gender equality and try to address them holistically, not in isolation, but with all other partners, first involving communities themselves and individuals. I have no doubt that we'll get there. The mere fact that now we have a Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Welfare, and we have all of these programs going on. I know from the one of the Gambia, the sky is the limit. I have no doubt that we will get there.
Just before the break, quickly, you've touched on a very salient point, which is quite interesting. There is no doubt we need more women in key decision-making positions. But you look at cabinet, for example, where you serve, there are few women. You look at parliament, there are few women. Even across key government agencies. Isn't it about time?
Oh yeah, it's even past time. Let me tell you one thing. In cabinet, we are 3 women, but we are managing powerful portfolios, very powerful portfolios and important portfolios. Gender is one. Basic and secondary education, which is key for all development aspects, all development to take place, is another. Environment and natural resources. And here are 3 powerful women in cabinet, for whom no is not the answer. And I have no doubt that President Barrow will bring on board more women in cabinet.
How's the support like for you in cabinet?
100% support from President Barrow and also cabinet colleagues. Oh yes, we don't have friends with our cabinet colleagues. They know we are very powerful, so they give us every support. But again, they also believe in what they are doing, you see. And they're not only supporting us because we are powerful, they believe in what they are doing. If you look around the cabinet, you see very gender-sensitive men and women, yes, in their cabinet, who believe in what they are doing. Yes, you mentioned National Assembly also. Yes, we are doing some work in that area. The last elections, National Assembly elections, after the elections, we are not very happy with the numbers. And so quickly, at the Ministry of Gender, we engaged our UN colleagues, and we organized a breakfast meeting to find out why. And we developed a project proposal which is being funded by the U.S. Secretary General's Peace Building Fund. And in that project, we are looking at a number of things. One, we want to know the answer to the 3 whys. Why are women not applying for such positions? Why are political parties not selecting women? And why are people not voting for women? We want to know the answer to these 3 whys.
All right.
So we are doing a little survey, and then once we know the answers, we embark on our sensitization programs and other programs to address the 3 whys. And in addition, this year, during the council elections, in preparation for the council elections, support was given to the few women who were selected to contest, to sort of empower them. And then this is going to continue. And I tell you, we are going to continue with the sensitization of the entire communities. We're doing this from a holistic approach so that everybody is sensitized. We want to know why they are not voting women in, why women are not also applying. Okay. With the hope that come next National Assembly, you'll be surprised. You see a lot of women applying to contest for the positions.
We look forward to that. I believe this is a good point to stop for the break. We'll be back in a moment.
Yeah.
Technology has always been at the forefront of our lives, and the way we use it has evolved drastically over the years. With the advent of 5G internet, we are entering a new era of technological innovation that promises to transform the way we live, work, and play. 5G internet is capable of providing data speeds up to 100 times faster than 4G, making it the ideal solution for streaming high-quality videos, playing online games, and downloading large files on the go. 5G internet is already transforming cities across the globe, powering smart cities, self-driving cars, and virtual reality experiences that were once thought impossible. 5G internet is also paving the way for Internet of Things, allowing for seamless connectivity between devices and the creation of a truly connected world. For the first time in the Gambia, QCell is bringing tomorrow's technology to you today with the launch of QCell 5G Internet. Get ready to experience the out-of-this-world wonders of QCell's 5G Internet. For more information, call 111. QCell. We innovate, others follow.
Welcome back, viewers. You're watching the 1-to-1 on QTV, and I am your host today, Ansmane Sonyasi. And our guest on the program tonight is the Honorable Minister for Gender, Honorable Fatou Kinte. Before the break, you were talking about research that is currently ongoing to address challenges, one of which is having women in key decision-making positions, political positions, for example. Yes, if you could buttress a little.
Yes, as I was saying, in that project also, we are working with the few women who have been elected in the National Assembly and the few who have been elected into the councils. And we'll build their capacity locally and internationally, and then use them as role models in future elections. So as I mentioned earlier, I have no doubt that in the next elections, you see a large number of women. And we're also going to work with the political parties to make sure that they also select female candidates. After all, we form the majority of the population and also the majority of the voting population. So we should see more women in the National Assembly and also in the councils. Yeah, we have gone past those ages when you see only 1 or 2 women. No, don't worry. Very soon we see more women in National Assembly and also in the councils. We are working towards that.
During his State of the Nation address, His Excellency the President did highlight that the 2005 revised Children's Act is already with the Ministry of Justice for review. How has it progressed? Tell us about it. And if you could share with us as well some of the features.
Yes, thank you very much. Before we presented the Children's Act at the Ministry of Justice, together with UNICEF, we embarked on situational analysis of vulnerable children across the country. Based on the findings of the situational analysis, we revised the Women's Act. And this revised version is what is now being presented to the Ministry of Justice for further presentation to Cabinet and then to the National Assembly. And in that revised version, we have taken into consideration emerging issues, issues of children on the move, issues of children selling in the streets, and all issues affecting children. You see, I had mentioned at the very beginning that when we were setting up this ministry, we created a new Directorate of Children's Affairs. That's very, very important, because the mandate of the Directorate is just to work on children's issues affecting children. What are children's rights? Anything dealing with children is what they are the Directorate is concentrating on. And this is the reason why we did the sit-down and also revised the Children's Act to take into consideration emerging issues. And then this Directorate is also very important because now children's issues are looked at holistically, and as we are speaking, we have strengthened the Steering Committee on Child Protection and National Steering Committee on Child Protection, and we are working very closely with all the other actors on child protection, Child Fund, CPA, all other actors, to make sure that children's issues are adequately addressed. And at these meetings, reports are delivered on what they are doing for children. We also look at their plans, look at their reports, and also where there are challenges, we come up with recommendations on the way forward. And as I mentioned earlier, these are quarterly meetings. And as I mentioned earlier, the hotline 199 is also addressing issues of children. So when a child is being, when there is violence against a child or against children anywhere, you can report. Call 199 and report. And we take immediate action and make sure that the issues of concern are addressed. And we have also developed the minimum standards to guide the operations of institutions which take care of children, like the orphanages, for example.
Orphanages.
Yes. And we make sure that these standards of procedure are in line with international standards. And then we visit them occasionally to see where the children live and how they are taking care of the children, to make sure that issues of children are adequately addressed.
I think this is important, because most of these orphanages are privately owned.
No, but even though they are privately owned, but they operate within the Gambia.
That's what I'm saying. It's important to have these
and that's the ministry. So they're under us, and we make sure that they maintain the minimum standards of operation. Otherwise, they are closed down. And in fact, I forgot to mention one thing. During COVID, we identified 50 daras across the country, and we supported them with rice, sugar, oil, detergents, lots of things that they will need. And then also with little cash. And then they told us that was the first time they were being supported by government. So we told them that now there's a whole ministry in charge of children, and a directorate in charge of children. And sometime this year also, we supported them with condiments, rice, sugar, oil, and also with cooking pots, and then detergents, and also sanitary things. We are closely in touch with them. We visit them occasionally to see what they are doing, just to make sure that they maintain the minimum standards for the care of children. And talking about that, I just also want to mention that we have got support from an NGO from Senegal called Mesa de la Guerre for a project at the tune of 100 million euro, where we'll be looking at issues of children on the move, children selling in the streets, and the talibis. It is called the Almudu project. And we are going to establish centers in Farafenye, Soma, and Brikama, where these children are going to be housed and trained on the Quran, and also trained on a skill of their choice.
These places you're naming are hotspots, actually.
Yeah, they're hotspots, children on the move. And then if there's need for them to be also, of course there is, and we also train them on the English school curriculum. Yeah. And this is important because we want to move children out of the street. The best place for a child is the school. So in these homes or in these centers, they will provide with all the education that is required, planning education and English education. And then also train those who want to learn a skill, will train them on a skill of their choice before they are graduated. This is a 4-year project. We are working with Maison de la Guerre from Senegal. It's an NGO. And the funding is up to the tune of 100 million euros. Okay. And we'll be looking at children in Brikama, Jarasoma, Amdalai, Kir Aib, Karang. Children, now, those children that we see in selling, or those that you see begging, bring them into this camp where they'll be given all the support and they'll learn the Quran and also conventional education.
Okay.
Yeah, because we want to get children out of the streets into a center, train them so that they can be responsible adults in the future. The Children's Act that you mentioned, 2005, once it has passed Cabinet and National Assembly, then we start the implementation. And it will be in line with work that we want to do in this Almudu project that I just mentioned. Yeah.
Okay. Talking about Cabinet and the Act, I am also aware that recently the gender mainstreaming document was submitted in Cabinet. How has it progressed? Tell us about it.
Yes. You see, earlier we had talked about women decision making. And one way I mentioned education, another way is also gender mainstreaming. So this is the reason why we came up with the gender mainstreaming document, which I presented in Cabinet. And there were comments made by my colleagues in Cabinet, which was very good. And we are now incorporating the comments. And actually, it was the Cabinet paper. And my colleagues recommended that we have a gender mainstream strategy plan. I was so happy when I had that on that day.
Certainly.
Yeah, so now we are incorporating the comments and then developing the strategy paper. It is at an advanced stage. In the next 2 weeks, I'll present it again in Cabinet. And then once that is done, we move with the implementation. And that is also very much in line. Last week or the week before, IMF was here. Because in that document, we are mainstreaming gender, and then we are going to mainstream gender, and we are coming up with a quota system. Ministries will have in their budget 3 to 5% budgeted only for gender issues. Yes. And we will also come up with structures which are required for effective gender mainstreaming. And interestingly and luckily for us, IMF also came, and I think they have left now, on gender responsive budgeting. But they want us to pilot 3 ministries, which is in line with the gender mainstream. Because in the gender mainstream document, we are talking about 3 to 5% of your budget be on gender issues. So you see, so it is in line because with gender mainstreaming, we will now move into gender programming and budgeting, which is very much in line with the thinking of IMF. And all of this is going to kickstart 1st January 2024, inshallah.
I see there's a lot of deliberate action being done by government to empower women, which is quite commendable. Talking about the IMF, the SDGs around women, how are you monitoring them as well? I know we have challenges when it comes to data in this country.
Yeah, there are challenges. That's not only for us in Gambia. I think it was across the globe. With the SDGs, I think Gambia is progressing very well. Yeah, in terms of the SDGs. In some areas, there are challenges, which is also not unique to only the Gambia. But I want to assure you that as far as the SDGs are concerned, when it comes to gender equality and women's empowerment, Gambia is rated very high. And we're not going to relent. Based on lessons learned, we'll make sure that we progress and scale up what we are doing in all sectors so that we move faster than we are moving. But I want to let you know that we are fine when it comes to the SDGs here. Gambia is very much in line. We are on track. Yes, we are on track. When it comes to the SDGs,
so in 2020, government launched the Women Enterprise Fund. Tell us about it. What impact is this having on the livelihoods of beneficiaries?
Women Enterprise Fund is the flagship project of the government of the Gambia. Launched in 2020, as you just mentioned.
How much are we talking about?
How much in terms of what?
In terms of funding.
Wow. It's fully funded by the government of the Gambia. And as we are speaking, we have disbursed over $60 million to the women of the Gambia. And we have reached over 50,000 women across the country. And we are gradually seeing impact because it came into existence so that it can address the challenge of women not having access to funding. Yeah. Because, the women of the Gambia, most of the women are small and micro entrepreneurs. They operate more in the informal sector as small and micro entrepreneurs. But their main challenge is access to finance. And government took it up by establishing different enterprise funds, so women have easy access to finance. And we have seen this paying dividends. We are supporting women's groups. We have a legal framework which sort of serves as the operational manual. Women have to be in groups of 6 to 200 to qualify for the fund. And they should all live in the same locality.
I was going to ask about the criteria as well.
And they should be meeting regularly and making a contribution, even if it is $1 each. And they should be registered with a certificate, and they should have a TIN number and a bank account. For us at the ministry, what is in the account is not important. What is important is to have a bank account in place, because the issue here is for the fund, we don't give you cash. It is transferred into your bank account.
Is it a loan?
Yes, a loan, but it's a very simple loan.
At what interest rate?
5%. 5% interest rate. And you take the loan.
And what are the conditions in terms of payment?
Okay, the Women Enterprise Fund is at an interest rate of 5%. And you are given the loan and you start paying after 6 months.
Okay.
Meaning, for the first 6 months, you'll be busy with your business activity.
So you give them a grace period.
Grace period of 6 months, yes. And before we give you the loan, you sign a contract. And on that contract form is indicated how much you'll be paying every month for 6 months. It will be indicated when you're going to start paying and how much you'll be paying every month. Then after the other 6 months, say within 1 year, you finish paying. And then it's a devolving loan. And then once you finish paying, others can also have access to the loan. And as we are speaking, quite a number of women have access to the funds, and they have utilized it very well. And they started paying. Some have even finished paying. And last year, we went around to do an assessment. We were quite amazed to see how progress women are making. Women are now becoming more and more economically empowered because of the loan. We have seen improvement in their lives. Yes, it's given to them as a group, but we have now seen women running an enterprise of their own, independent of the group. We saw some in poultry.
From that support?
Yeah, we saw some in the animal husbandry with sheep rearing. We met somebody who said she was a beggar before, and now she has her own tailoring shop. I was quite amazed. And we have seen some now who are doing well as petty traders. In fact, we did a small documentary of that, and we presented it at a side event in New York Vienna last year, because of which we are also now getting more support from other partners. We may not be able to see a big impact on women's lives now, but gradually we are seeing improvement in their lives. Yes, now they are now running their own business activities, and they are getting more income, and they are gradually expanding their business activities. Okay. I mentioned earlier that the onion growers, which we supported this year, one of them told me that she has doubled her yield this year, and also doubled her income. So you see, gradually, progressively, the Women Enterprise Fund is making an impact on the lives of women. And you see, if you improve a woman's life economically, you improve the life of the family, the community, and by extension, the entire nation.
All right. So, I mean, we have about 10 minutes to wrap up, but there are two more important topics I want us to discuss. One is health, and the other one would be on legal issues. But first, let's talk about the health sector.
Social protection, don't forget.
This is one area where women still face a lot of challenges within the health sector. I talk about women dying in labor, children as well. There are still challenges. What is your ministry doing, and how are you working with the Ministry of Health and partners by extension to ensure that challenges women face within that sector as well are addressed or at least minimized?
I've been working very closely with the Ministry of Health, because children's health and maternal health are key to the work of the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Welfare. We are working on there's the project we call the Kabiru Bama Initiative. This was a project that I introduced when I was with UNFPA, and it's ongoing. In this project, we use economic empowerment of women as a strategy to reduce infant and maternal mortality. You would like to know how we do it. We go into a community after a lot of sensitization. Committee members, and also with a set criteria, committee members will identify the women Kabiro heads, women, and then we do a lot of training and sensitization on sexual and reproductive health, use of maternal health, when to report for antenatal services, why you should report regularly for antenatal services, what foods you should eat. We work closely with the Ministry of Health. They take care of the health component, and we take care of the economic empowerment component. And then we educate the entire community, and we also have a male component of it, where male members are also educated and trained. So they give support to the women. So that in those communities, we started small and we are growing. We started with 14 communities in the Kiangs, and then we saw an increase in women reporting to the health facility for antenatal services, and we saw an increase also in women delivering in at the health facility, because the program also takes on board all of this. And then the economic empowerment component is that women are trained a skill of their choice, and they are given a small money to run a small business so they can earn income for themselves. Okay. With that income, they don't have to wait for somebody to give them permission to go to a health facility. They go to the health facility and they can buy whatever drugs they are asked to buy. And interestingly also, the women in the community also, because of the income they have earned, they are able to get in touch with one or two taxi drivers, so that when the woman is in labor, they call the taxi driver very quickly, and he comes and they evacuate the woman to the health facility to deliver. And there is also the blood donor component of it. That's where the male members come in. And then there's a blood donor drive, and they know, the men in the project know their blood groups. People also know their blood groups. And then when a woman goes to the facility and she needs blood, they're able to contact the person who shares the same blood group, and he comes in to donate. And the other thing also I want to mention is that before the project started, when a woman is in labor, she's accompanied by an old woman on a donkey cart to the health facility. Now that has changed. It is the husbands now who accompany them to the health facility to deliver, because of the work that we have done. And as a result, in the 2 years that we have implemented the project, in the Kiangs, there was no infant mortality and there was no mortality death. There was no maternal death in those communities. So based on lessons learned, now we are scaling up into other communities. So here, this is where we are working with the Ministry of Health to reduce infant and maternal mortality.
So we have a few minutes, but just quickly on social protection. Social welfare is one of the areas that you work in as well. Let's talk about social protection.
Before social protection, before the program itself, I want to talk about a program that we are doing. We have the family strengthening program within the Directorate of Social Welfare, where we give support to vulnerable families, cash. Every quarter we give an allocation, and we also support the elderly from that family strengthening program, and it's fully funded by the government of the Gambia. The social protection program came into being because the government of the Gambia has made a commitment to protect everybody in this country. And that commitment is being translated into action by supporting the most vulnerable, the most poor, so that they are empowered, their status is improved, and they're also able to contribute towards socio-economic development of the country. We are the key ministry in that. And normally what we do an assessment of the vulnerable families. Once they are identified, and then they are given cash support on every quarter. At the moment, there is a social legislative study going on by GBOS, which is going to identify more vulnerable families, which we are going to support. But I want to say that during COVID, we give support. We had the NAFA Quick. We call it NAFA Quick because we had to act quick. And it was implemented during a 4-month period during COVID. And we gave out support to vulnerable families in 30 districts across the country. We have been able to reach 78,000 families.
Okay.
And we reached families in 30 districts.
Right.
And as we are speaking, we have working on the normal NAFA,
Okay.
normal NAFA projects, and that is supposed to reach out 20 districts, and the target is about 15,000 families.
Okay.
But we have surpassed that, and we have reached out to 16,862 families in 20 districts, and it's ongoing.
That's quite commendable. I'm being notified that we've run out of time. But on a final note, would you want to see the women's bill back?
Which women's bill?
The bill in Parliament. Would you want it back?
Is it the one in connection with the elections?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Actually, even before that one, because if you look at the bill that was presented, it has been expunged from the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, for the 14 additional seats for women. The Constitution is still going to go to National Assembly, and once it is approved, then we have the 14 additional seats for women. That's in addition to other women who will be selected by their political parties to contest the National Assembly elections. Yeah, for sure. No, this is something that we are going to spearhead to make sure that we get more women into National Assembly. And you see, if it becomes law, it makes it all the more easier.
All right, so let's talk about the social protection program. Tell us about it.
The government of the Gambia has made a commitment to protect the rights of every individual in this country. The commitment that government has made is what it is translating into action by coming up with the social protection program. We have social protection policy 2015-2025, and with a strategy plan and an implementation plan. During COVID, we started the implementation of the social protection program, which we call the NAFA Quick. At that time, people were really desperate and in need of support. And quickly, the Director of Social Welfare, under my ministry, worked with other partners. And in that intervention, it was a 4-month intervention. And we were able to reach out to 78,559 vulnerable households with bi-monthly cash transfers of $3,000 per month. And this was at the tune of $470 million. The project is funded by the World Bank, and in dollar terms, it's $10 million. And we cover 30 districts in URR, CRR, LRR, NBR, and West Coast Region 2. And this program was initiated in 2020 because we had to respond quickly to COVID. And as we are talking, we are implementing the normal NAFA program. That one was quick NAFA. Quick because we had to move very fast. Now we have the normal NAFA. And that one we are implementing in 20 districts. We started in 2021. And we have reached out to 16,862 families and households. And the target was just about 15,000 households. So we have even surpassed the target that has been set for us. And that also we are working in different regions. And it's at the tune of $17 million US. As we are speaking, GBOS is working on doing a survey. And that survey will bring out number of vulnerable people in the country. And then we are also going to make sure that we reach out to those through our social protection program.
Thank you, Honorable. Your final message to women watching this program?
The final message to everybody is to support the agenda of women's empowerment. Because when you empower women, you empower families, you empower communities, and you empower the whole nation. And President Barrow is not waiting. He's far ahead of all of us in terms of empowering women. The establishment of the Ministry of Gender is one, and the support to all of our initiatives is another. So I'm telling all Gambians that President Barrow has left us behind, so we should make sure that we follow him and empower women. Because when you empower women, we empower ourselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. We appreciate your time. Viewers, I'm afraid this is all we have for you for today. Do join us next week for another edition. Until then, thanks for watching.